From my entry in 2004 or the 13th Congress until today, I have observed the observance of that well-kept tradition. That in line with the time-honored tradition of according courtesy to the office of the Vice President, I move to terminate the budget briefing of the OBP. Ang dami po. Ang dami ko pang sasabihin sa inyo, haba lang tayo. So the question is, when we did that to the Vice President earlier, now we're doing it now, are we now setting aside this tradition? That's parliamentary inquiry, Madam Chair. I have already related the value of tradition. Parliamentary procedures, Madam Chair, grow from or are enriched by traditions, experiences, and precedents collectively gathered by the House of Representatives over years, and the institution keeps them well. That is why, from my entry in 2004 or the 13th Congress until today, I have observed the observance of that well-kept tradition. The two highest positions in government, namely the office of the President and the office of the Vice President, were duly accorded with respect and deference. I have observed that. That's why I have relayed to you earlier, in 2022, the Honorable Libanan, invoking courtesy, took him only 13 minutes to dispose the office of the Vice President. And that was quickly moved, quickly seconded by no less than our majority leader. That was in 2022. I'm not going by record, Madam Chair. 2023, I said, no less than the presidential son, our own senior deputy majority leader, stood up and said that in line with the time-honored tradition of according courtesy to the office of the Vice President, I move to terminate the budget briefing of the OBP. And I can recall the Honorable Castro strongly objected.
No, Manuel.
No, that's in 2023. This is by the record. And she objected, but her objections were rejected by the committee because the committee already terminated the proceedings. And she kept on requesting, Madam Chair, that she makes at least her manifestation. And she was unable to do that because the proceedings were terminated. So that, what I am saying, from 2004, when I entered these halls, these hallowed halls, hanggang punto sa sinasabi kong 2023, we have kept the tradition. Ngayon po, kung ano-ano ng mga tanong ang ginawa, in 2023, 22 minutes. 2022, 13 minutes. Ito po, pinagawa yan na po yung budget earlier at ngayon we're about to quarrel again on the budget. Ang tanong ko nga po ngayon, dahil nga po sa nangyayari ngayon sa budget ng Office of the Vice President, and despite her manifestation that she will no longer defend her budget because she forgo, sabi niya, I will forgo my opportunity to defend the budget of the OBP for 2025 by way of question and answer, and I will leave to the House of Representatives to decide such proposal as presented. We cannot even accept such kind of answer, Madam Chair. What do we need her to articulate for? So ang pinag-uusapan po natin, wala na po ba yung respeto sa tradisyon na yun? Kagaya po ng binabanggit ko, every time mag-i-interpellate po dito, Madam Chair, because of that tradition, it's always the member of the minority who will start the interpellation because we have kept that tradition. Ang dami po. Ang dami ko pang sasabihin sa inyo, haba lang tayo. So the question is, when we did that to the Vice President earlier, now we're doing it now, are we now setting aside this tradition? That's number one question. Number two, is this committee authorized to set aside the tradition?
Your Honor, short answer is no to both questions.
Okay. If that is the answer, Madam Chair, and we are all bound to respect one tradition so sacred in our hearts, because we are called honorables in this house. We cannot be honorables if we cannot honor our own tradition. We are defined by what we believe as a tradition in this house. So if we are now all amenable that we have kept that tradition, no longer questions are being asked, then I will respectfully move, Madam Chair, to terminate the budget of the OBP for 2025.
I object, Madam
Thank
Chair.
you.
I object.
Madam Chair, I
There's a
object.
motion to terminate the budget briefing of the OVP, but there is an objection, so we divide the House. The chair has decided to divide the House. So those
Madam Chair,
in favor
as
of the motion,
a rule, we usually deliberate
Those-
before we
those
vote.
in favor
We deliver-
of the motion, please raise your hand. Those in favor of the motion to terminate the budget briefing of the OVP, please raise your hand.
All those against.
Those who are not in favor of terminating, raise your hand.
For non-tradition. Okay. 3 in favor, 45 against.
3 in favor, 45 against.
Motion is
The motion
lost.
is
Lost.
lost.
Madam Chair, I thought we have kept the tradition. The tradition is no longer ask any question. That was the tradition. So why are you voting against the motion?
The majority of the will is always respect.
It's
The will of the
inconsistent
majority
with
is
the
always
tradition that
respected.
we have already agreed to observe.
So we will
Yes, Madam
proceed
Chair.
to the next.
You mentioned earlier that we will keep up the tradition. You said no. Earlier,
For
no,
orderly
we voted
proceedings, I
against.
remind the members to please wait to be recognized before speaking. So, the chair now recognizes the
Madam
budget
Chair.
sponsor, the Honorable Zia Adyong, to give a recap of what transpired in the last hearing.
Madam Chair,
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, before
Madam Chair.
we proceed with Vice Chair Adjong, can I
Yes,
explain my
Cong.
vote, Madam Chair?
Paduano?
Can I explain my vote? Why I voted against the motion of the Honorable Marcoleta? Just a short lang.
You have 1 minute.
Thank you po. Madam Chair, tama po. During the previous hearing, wala pong nag-move to terminate the budget. That's number 1 po of the OBP. Number 2 po, the demand or the answers being given by the Vice President during the time. Personally, it does not satisfy this representation. Thirdly, Madam Chair, the courtesy being given to the Office of the Vice President is afforded if she is present in the day's hearing. How can you give that courtesy when Faki is absent in the day's hearing, Madam Chair? I might change my vote for that, but
Was the President of the
are
Philippines
you
present?
recognized?
Please.
Congressman,
Please
I am
wait
about
to
to
be
be recognized,
recognized.
Madam Chair.
Please wait to be recognized. Please proceed, Cong Paduano. You
You're
have
not yet
30 seconds.
recognized, Marcoleta. Madam Chair, maybe I will change my vote if the for the motion Marcoleta if the Vice President is present in today's hearing. But he's absent. How can I personally vote for that? Because he's not present in today's hearing, Madam Chair, and that courtesy should be given to those head of office that should be present during the budget deliberation, Madam Chairman. Thank you.
So,
Proceed now with the...
Kong Zia, you're now recognized. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Majority Leader, Representative Manix Dalipe, Committee Chair Saldico, members, honorable members of this committee, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Good morning po sa ating lahat and welcome to the continuation of the budget briefing of the proposed 2025 budget for the Office of the Vice President. Madam Chair, in the previous hearing for fiscal year 2025, the Office of the Vice President proposed a budget of 2,037,305. As of the most recent report, the OVP has an obligation rate of 39.9% for 2024. During the last budget briefing, several topics were propounded that the committee sought to be clarified upon. First, members of the committee asked the Office of the Vice President regarding the notice of disallowance issued by COA for the confidential funds released in 2022 indicated that 73 million pesos or 58.6% of total was not utilized in compliance with Joint Memorandum Circular 2015-01 of COA, DBM, DILG, GCG, and DND. The Commission on Audit has ordered the disallowed amount to be returned. Second, several members of the committee examined the grounds for the disallowance. The COA report stated that this was due to non-compliance with guidelines and the non-submission of supporting evidence or documents. Third, it was noted by members of the committee that the 125 million pesos confidential fund for the fiscal year 2022 was utilized from December 1 to December 31 of the same year, in 2022. A common comment by members, Madam Chair, was that this short period of time within which a huge amount of fund is spent raised further clarificatory questions on the validity of the spending. Fourth, members of the committee raised that there were supposed duplications between the Office of the Vice President's medical and burial assistance programs and those provided by the DOH and the SWD. Clarifications were sought on how these overlaps would be addressed to ensure the proper use of resources. Fifth, there were inquiries about the accessibility of various OVP programs, such as the Educational Assistance Program, the Kalusugan Food Track, and the Magnegosyo Taday initiative for MSMEs. The committee sought further information on how these programs align with the OVP's mandate. And lastly, Madam Chair, the committee requested an explanation of how the OVP's programs reflect its constitutional mandate and whether the proposed 2025 budget will support continued progress in these areas. That would be all, Madam Chair, and I would yield back the floor to the Senior Vice Chair, Representative Stella Quimbo. Maraming salamat po at magandang umaga po sa ating lahat.
So we shall begin interpellation. Siyempre nakakalungkot na wala tayong representatives mula sa OVP, pero muli meron tayong representatives mula sa DBM at COA. And again, I would like to
Madam Chair.
Remind our members that you each have 5 minutes for your interpellation, and to remind our resource persons that those 5 minutes will not include your responses. And so the first
Madam
to
Chair.
interpellate from the minority, we have the Honorable Ramon Rodrigo Gutierrez. You have 5 minutes. The floor is yours, Cong Rog.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning po to our resource persons from the COA and the DBM. Madam Chair, this representation, first and foremost, laments the fact that the Office of the Vice President has failed to appear today. We lament the fact that, as I understand, the committee actually extended courtesy. In the letter, it was indicated that the Vice President may or may not attend. However, it is required that a representative be here. Unfortunately, not even a representative is present here, kahit USEC man lang, ASEC, not even a director, for us to be answer questions. As a personal courtesy to the Office of the Vice President and understanding her responses from the last hearing, this representation has opted to question mostly the budget of 2023 regarding the regular budget. But even then, unfortunately, it would seem that the OVP is not here for us to question. So but in line with their duty in the House for the deliberation of the budget, I will carry on with my questions. Siguro po dito na lang si COA because coincidentally, my questions are precisely on the COA report. So with that, Madam Chair, we'll be now proceeding with my questioning to the COA.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
What is your point of order? And please explain the rule that is violated.
The rule violated, Madam Chair, is our tradition. You just upheld that the tradition will be respected. And so, if questions will still be asked, then the tradition that we have kept so well, that you have said that we're not about to discard right now, will be disrespected again. I thought we understood each other.
There was already a ruling.
Kong Marcoleta, we had already voted earlier on that issue.
That's
on
another
tradition,
matter,
so
Madam Chair.
your point is not well taken. Please proceed, Kong Rog.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Madam Chair,